Hello and welcome everyone to episode 5 of the Duel podcast. Super excited to bring it to you today. How's everybody doing? Today's show, I'm going to talk a little bit about future plans for the show for the first few minutes, first section here. And then we're going to have a full card rundown for our next card for the contest. So after I post this, I'll remind you a few times throughout the show, but I started a pick'em contest with the last show that quite a few of you entered, and I'd like to see more entries this time because we've got a prize for each card and a monthly prize, which I'm going to be giving out. But the card this week will be Pride FC4, the org that I work for. The reason that is because I believe this is the biggest card that our org has ever had. I think it's actually, we have two, I looked at the Saturday, because it's Saturday the 23rd, and I looked at it, and I believe we have 2 of the top 10 fights of the entire weekend on this card. So it's going to be a monster card. Very, very excited. Definitely a few matchups here. That's going to be the pick'em card, so you can post your picks for that card below in the forum when I post this. Of course, winner of each card gets 10 Zenith supplements of their choice. Last week we did Sin 623, Master Tessin winning, picking 8 out of the 10 fights correctly, and winning 10. He chose the energy subs, but winning 10 energy subs. And then monthly prize, we've got some stuff from Zenith, we got some stuff from Sin All-Stars, and we got some stuff from My Balls is Hot. So some clothing for everybody there. And the announcement that I made in the thread, for those of you that don't visit the forums, is the 2019 yearly prize. We've got clothing, we've got in-game cash, we've got nutrition, we've got VIP time, and the more people play regularly, the bigger the prize gets. Because I've got some commitments from our sponsors as to how much they're willing to contribute, and the more people play, the more I am willing to contribute as well. But right now, looks like we've got, a couple hundred subs, couple hundred pieces of clothing. I'm willing to contribute $250,000 cash as a minimum, as a base, and willing to buy 3 months VIP for anybody who wins the yearly annual contest. So you guys can get in on that. Of course, a bit of a head start because this is card 2, but anybody that can get in early can make up that ground and could be walking away with a prize basket full of stuff that'll probably get you through several months, if not a year, to have a few hundred pieces of clothing, a few hundred supplements. Good times. Good times. So we've got Pride FC4 this week, and then future plans for the show. I don't have a card set up for next week yet. I'd like to do one more March card. So if orgs want to reach out to me to get a card featured on the show that you think is going to be big, we can certainly do that. We can talk rates and permissions, because I don't want to do a preview. If I find a card that's really good, I don't want to do a preview if the org doesn't want me to do one. So I just feel like I have to reach out to the orgs and the creators for permission to do those shows. So if you guys want to flag me down via PM or in the forum and say, I'd really like it if you did a main event or a co-main event or a full preview of this card on March the 30th or this card on April the 3rd or whatever date it is, I'd appreciate that. And I'd like that card, if at all possible, because I'd like to do one more March card or very early April card in the next show. I'd like it to be an org that I haven't featured before, whether it be Claymore, whether it be Gamma, OFC, Pulse, those guys. So if any of you, Justice, Randall, Mentor, Gus, Brad, anybody who runs those orgs, if you want to reach out to me and set up a preview, then I'd be more than willing to accommodate that, because I'd like to do one more March show before the month is over. As for April, plans for this show, I have 2 cards that I'm definitely been set up to do. Pulse 100 is coming up. I believe, I'll have to double check, but I believe that's April 6th, if I've got the Pulse numbering correct. Let's check. Load up Pulse's page here. No, I was a couple ahead. So that would be April 20th, because this weekend is Pulse 95. I thought it was 97, because I've got Bosch over there fighting on Pride's behalf. Go, Bob, go. Sorry, Lance. I like Bob. Representing my house against the number 1 welterweight in the world, so that should be a fun fight. But we've got Pulse 100 mid-April, and then we've got Supernova from Synchronicity end of April. So April's going to be a big month. I don't have a lot for early April yet, but the end of April, mid to end of April, got a couple of shows lined up already, got sponsors lined up already. So if anybody wants a preview done, reach out to me. If anybody wants a sponsorship or to run an ad during the show, reach out to me. I'm open to everything. If somebody wants to help with the contest, reach out to me. You know, anybody and everything. I'm open to it as long as the community is interested in that occurring, or if they have any ideas, any format changes, anything that we can do, I'm open to that as well. But without further ado, Pride FC4, let's get to it. Full card rundown. This emanating from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in the Estadio das Maracas, the 12,000 seat stadium. This is going to be as I said, the biggest card in our history, and a pretty significant card, I would argue, game-wide for the weekend. I wouldn't be shocked if this pulled like a 400-something rating. That's how big this card is. This, to me, is a bigger card than the Hellmuth Punto card from a few weeks ago, just because this has more depth to it, in my opinion. But let's get to it, and I'm excited to let you guys know my thoughts and to hear some of yours as well. Part of the reason I started doing this contest was I want more community involvement, more forum involvement, but I want to hear thoughts and strategy and stuff that we may agree or disagree on, because it's fun to hear how everybody approaches this game and to have people pick winners in a contest. Sometimes it is a coin flip, sometimes you are just guessing, but it's interesting to hear the thought process of a lot of people. Opening up the card, we have Ronnie Cash versus Rich Wood. I almost called him Ronnie Wood. 170-pound matchup. Opening up the card. Rich Wood 10-6. Ronnie Cash 10-5. Rich Wood has alternated wins and losses. So he's gone win-loss, win-loss, win. And Cash has won 3 of his last 5, but is coming off a loss. So we've got Wood, who's primarily a decision fighter, has only finished 2 of his 10 wins. And Cash, who's primarily a submission fighter, or submission finisher. But these two guys are interesting to me because Wood is the higher ranked fighter, but I find them to be very similar. Both are black belts, both have very good wrestling. Primaries are almost exactly the same in that Cash has the boxing primary advantage, elite to sensational. Every other primary is the same. So it's exceptional Muay Thai for both, sensational wrestling for both, black belt BJJ for both. But Cash seems to be more of an offensive black belt. We got TJ, one of our more active forum members, TJ Mitchell, versus Lim Lin from Heritage. I am conflicted with this particular pick because the ages are similar, the IDs are similar, they're both 305 fighters. It's like mirror image type fighters, but I think Cash is coming off a bit of a tough loss because he was primarily winning his last fight and then got finished in the third round. Got a little bit too aggressive, so I wonder if he'll shy away a little bit. But personally, I'm going with Ronnie Cash to get back on the winning streak, and Rich Wood to continue his form because he's coming off a win, which means the last couple times he's done that, he's lost. So I'm going to take Cash in the opening fight of the evening. Second fight on the card, we've got Geese Fury versus Zenga Venzil. 205-pound fight. Some of these names, guys, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. Fury 29-17. Venzil 26-12-1. This is a weird fight because you've got a guy who varies his finishes. Venzil, 9 TKOs, 8 subs, 9 decisions. Problem with him is his chin is a little bit suspect. 10 of his 12 losses have come by KO, TKO. And Fury has some power. He's got 18 of his 29 wins by KO, TKO. Venzil, in his last 5, is 2-2-1. Fury, in his last 5, is 3-2, coming off a win. I think there's a ground advantage for Venzil, because obviously he's a more offensively minded BJJ player, and it's a black belt versus a brown belt. They both have sensational wrestling, and Geese, on the other hand, has a clear striking advantage. So this is striker versus grappler. I think, if I had to guess, I think the wrestling of Geese Fury will hold up long enough, or hold up longer, than the chin of Venzil will hold up. So I'm picking Fury. By the way, I picked Cash, but I didn't say I picked Cash by decision in the first fight. And I'll pick Fury by KO, TKO, probably midway through the fight, I would guess, because I think the striking advantage will be too much to overcome once he stuffs a few takedowns. If Venzil is able to get him down, though, it's possible that we could see a submission, but I'm going to say that the takedown defense holds up for Geese Fury I believe that would be 2 in a row for him if he were to win this fight. Yes, coming off 2 losses and a win, it would be 2 wins in a row to bounce back. Fight 3 on this card, we have a 145 bout between Gary Tonin, of course, based on the king of the leg block, Gary Tonin, and Bob the Man. Now, this is an interesting fight because Tonin is one of those over-the-hill type veterans that is fighting just to fight now. But primarily, most of his losses have come by decision, so his chin is still pretty decent. 27-25. So he's about a 500 fighter. 13 wins by KO TKO, 10 wins by sub, 4 by decision. So he's gone to the judges 20 times and lost 16. He's lost 16 decisions out of 20. Meanwhile, Bob the Man, Tonin, this is his 53rd fight. Bob the Man, this will be his 16th. He's 9-6. But he has gone to decision all 6 of his losses. He's never won a decision, but he's lost all 6. So a combined decision record for these two of 4-22 in 26 decisions. Bob has finished primarily his victories by sub. 6 of his 9 finish wins are by sub, 3 by KO TKO. So he's only had 3 true outcomes in his 15 fights. He's knocked the guy out, he's just submitted the guy, or he's lost a decision to him. Now, I think that's going to change. I've got Bob by decision, because I don't think he's going to KO Tonin, and I think we're going to have a stalemate on the ground. Again, both black belts, both guys who have some subs, obviously. Striking is fairly even. Tonin with a bit of a wrestling advantage, but I think we're going to have a stalemate on the ground, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if Bob used some clinch work, to get in tight in the striking range, and eke out a decision. I think it'll be a close fight, but I think I've got Bob for the win there. Of course, last week in the Pick'em, I went 4-6, so what do I know? Okay, 4th fight on the card. We've got Dakota Bull versus Samuel Cook. 2 managers that I respect very much, and Buff Minion and Miguel Farrell. These 2 guys have been in the org for a while, and with various fighters in some form or another. This is at 155, and it's another interesting fight in that very, very even, except there's a striking advantage for Bull, but an experience advantage for Cook. Cook, this will be his 24th fight. He's 14-9. Bull, this will be his 9th fight. He's 6-2. Cook's wins very spread out. 6 by KO TKO, 3 by sub, 5 by decision. He has lost 4 by KO and 5 by decision. Both fighters coming off a loss, but they've both won 3 of their last 5. Cook coming off a loss to Emilio Rojas, Randall McSweeney, and Dakota coming off a loss to Eryk Egyptian, who is actually going to be actually just fought last week again, won again, and is going to be fighting for the title in April in the organization. So Egyptian's off to a fast start. No shame in either of those losses there, because both of those guys have been rising up the division recently. Again, very even in the rankings, very even in the primaries. This is basically just me flipping the coin, and I think tie goes to the vet here. I'm going to give it to Samuel Cook, because even though Bull looks to have some of the main advantages, I think being a 6-2 fighter, you don't really know what you're gonna get from him quite yet. He very easily could win this fight, but I'm gonna take Cook by decision, and that's not a pick that I'm especially confident in, but I'm never confident in a pick, so take that for what you will. Sixth fight on the card, or fifth fight to happen, sixth fight total. Joseph O'Byrne versus Thomas Power, 145. Both guys with elite striking, both guys with sensational Muay Thai and wrestling, and BJJ advantage for O'Byrne, which looks to be primarily defensive because he's never submitted anybody and he's never been submitted. Neither has Power. So neither of these guys has ever been subbed. Neither of these guys have ever subbed anybody. So we know kind of what this fight's going to look like and where it's going to take place. As I said, 145 fight. O'Byrne 12-6. Power 17-12-1. Very, very even matchup skill-wise. O'Byrne splits his wins evenly, 6-6, TKO and decision. Power, 10 by TKO, 7 by decision. He's got 2 losses by KO, TKO, and 10 by decision. So judges' scorecards have not been kind to him. O'Byrne, 4 losses by KO, TKO. 2 by decision. I can't read. Form. Each has won 3 of their last 5, and both have alternated wins and losses. So somebody's going to break that streak here because they're both coming off a win. It's gone win-loss, win-loss, win for both. Both coming off a win right now, so somebody's streak is going to break. Another coin flip. I'm going to take O'Byrne in this case. Again, not confident because I think Power's avenue to victory is a TKO win because I think O'Byrne's chin is not the best and Power has some power. No pun intended. And this is definitely going to be one of those contender fights where whoever wins this is probably 1 or 2 more wins away from that title shot at 145. They're going to be keeping an eye on this because the card before this in St. Petersburg, Pride FC3, has a title defense from our 145-pound champion. But I'm going with O'Byrne here. Not confident in that pick. But could be another one of those coin flip fights because they're very, very even skill-wise. The cut's going to be a little bit tougher for O'Byrne, but we'll see how that goes. Right after this, I'm going to take, since we are in the midway point of the card, I am going to take a quick ad break, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Promotional consideration paid for by the following. HGH Nutrients. When regular steroids just aren't good enough, visit HGH Nutrients, located on the New York High Street, an official sponsor of Empire 310K. They have 5 Monster 160 supplements for all of your fighting needs. The king of the E-Cubit is ready to serve you at HGH Nutrients in New York. Sin City All-Stars, official sponsor of Pride FC, has everything you need after a tough night on the strip. Come to Vegas for 2 genuine 160 products, as well as the biggest sponsor on the market. Sin City All-Stars, Vegas today. Urban Fighter in New York continues the tradition of providing stylish clothing for great prices. Need to stand out on your way to the cage? Don't delay and come and see what Urban Fighter has in store for you. Okay, so second half of this fight card, and this is where it really starts to heat up, for me anyway. We've got a 205-pound fight between, here we go, Aristotle Nemomachis and Gunnar Wild. This is an interesting fight for me because Gunnar's coming. He's got a 2-fight win streak, looking for his third in a row. Aristotle's got 3 fights in a row and looking for a fourth. Both these guys are in the top 1,000. This is when, in the middle of the card, we start getting into those fighters with a little bit of momentum behind them. Aristotle 24-9, Gunnar Wild 21-11. So experience about the same. Aristotle 34th fight, Wild 33rd. Wild actually has a primary advantage, slight primary advantage in Muay Thai and wrestling. Both brown belts, both elite boxers. And this is a story of power. Aristotle, 18 of his 24 wins by KO/TKO. Wild, 12 of his 21. Nobody has submitted anybody, so this is primarily going to be one of those fights where it might be battle of the stand-up. And both guys have been susceptible to being knocked out, but I wouldn't say it's an alarming statistic for either one of them. I'm going to take Gunnar Wild almost purely based on slight primary advantage. Whether that will translate in the cage to skill, it remains to be seen. But whoever wins this fight, probably going to be top 500 or 600, moving towards, as I said, another one of those contender fights where whoever wins this fight is probably 1 or 2 more wins away from a title shot at 205. So this is one of those eliminator type fights on the road to the top. So I got Wild in this one. We've got Paul Miura versus Bunjo Wu in our next fight. 2 guys that I respect very, very much. Again, at 145. And Bunjo Wu is Action Jackson, for those guys who don't know. Paul Miura, ISPA. It's interesting because both these guys they're both coming off a loss, and they've both been struggling. So this is one of those ones where you weed out who's really at the top. Primary advantages for Miura in most areas except for the jiu-jitsu. Bunjo Wu is a black belt. Miura with the brown. Miura's never been submitted and never been stopped. He started his career, I believe, looks like 17-1. In his last 4 fights, he's 0-2-2. He's got 2 losses and 2 draws in there. Bunjo Wu, he's won 3 of his last 5, but he is coming off a loss. Miura, 17-3-2. Bunjo Wu, 13-6-1. It's an interesting one for me because these guys are very similar in ID, as far as creation age is concerned. They're probably in the middle of the pack, and Miura, after being unstoppable for his first 16, 17 fights, has looked very human. He hasn't won in his last 4 fights. Jiwoo comes from, as I said, Action, and very respected manager, very tough matchup. He'll be looking to get this to the floor and look for a submission, because he does have a few submission wins and experience there. I think Miura will probably be looking to either grind this out to a decision, or he might look to exploit a chin. I think he's probably going to eke out a decision just because of his superior stand-up skills, and I think it'll be hard for Jiwoo to get this to the floor necessarily in a submission scenario. So I'm going to go with Jiwoo. Or, sorry, Miura. But Jiwoo, he's going to have a tough time. I think he's going to make it competitive, but I think he's going to have a tough time getting it to the floor using his wrestling. Sorry for the little pause there, guys. I got a phone call while I was recording, so I was a little thrown off by that. But again, reiterate my pick of Paul Miura to win that fight and get back on track. His first win in 5 fights. Next, we have what I consider to be about as close to a 205 title eliminator as you could possibly get, with Gabel Dara versus Cassius Hallo. And this is an interesting fight to me because we got the younger upstart 29-year-old versus the guy holding it down for the Jiu-Jitsu old guard, 40-year-old red belt. He's not the best striker, but he's got elite wrestling, a red belt, and he seems to rip people's limbs off. He's one of the most fascinating fighters in the org, and it'll be interesting for me to see this one because we got a rising up-and-comer versus a guy who doesn't really want to pass the torch. Dara versus Hallo. Dara with a huge striking advantage as to be expected. Hallo with the wrestling and jiu-jitsu advantage. This is a tough one because Dara's never been subbed, but he is susceptible to taking a knockout loss. So this is the type of fighter who doesn't have elite level striking that he might be able to beat. 18-9-2 for Dara, 18-8 for Hallo. 10 of those 18 wins by sub. Both these guys, Dara, 7 of his 9 losses are by KO/TKO. Hallo has won 4 of his last 5 and is coming off a win. Dara is on a 3-fight win streak, looking to win his 4th in a row. Both these guys are in the top 300 pound for pound. So Hallo at time of this recording, 216. Dara at time of this recording, 286. As I said, big age difference. 29 versus 40. Question is, will Hallo be able to get this to the floor before he gets cracked? And will he be able to sub a guy who's never been subbed? As much as I love Cassius Hallo and hope he carries on the tradition, I think this is a day where the torch may be passed. I'm going to take Dara by KO. Very well could end up with Dara falling victim to his first ever sub loss. But I'm going to take Dara by KO, and then we'll move on to our co-main event here. Co-main event, 205 title, Enzo Perez versus 3Dog, and this is a huge fight for the org. 205 title championship. Perez 13th in the weight class, 3Dog 3rd in the weight class. Both guys have a bit of a reputation for being reasonably good finishers as well. Primary advantage everywhere for 3Dog, as well as an experience advantage question is, can the younger upstart take him out? That's what I'm curious to see. 23-13 for 3Dog, 14-3 for Enzo Perez, 14 of his wins by KO TKO, 2 losses by KO, 1 loss by sub. So Enzo Perez has never been to the cards regardless, and this is his 18th professional fight. 3Dog, 23-13, finishing 19 of his 23 wins, going to the cards in 10 of his 13 losses. So he tends to lose by decision or win by finish. I think it'll be an uphill road to climb for Enzo Perez to win this fight. I think if 3Dog wins it, he's easily a top 20 fighter and very well may be the top ranked 205er in the world. We'll have to find an interesting fight for him. Perez is 4-1 in his last 5 on a 2-fight win streak, looking to win the title. Dog has won 4 in a row, looking to make it 5. I'm going to pick 3Dog by TKO. I think probably second or third round. I would be very surprised if this went to the judges, and I would be very surprised if this ended in anything other than one or the other knocking each other out. That'll be a very interesting fight for me to watch this weekend. I think if 3Dog or Perez wins, they'll probably either be in line for a super fight or for a title defense versus the winner of Hallo, which we just talked about. Finally, our main event, Phil Hellmuth Jr. versus Brad Blazner. Now, this is a fight after my own heart, being a huge wrestling and poker playing fan. Both have elite boxing, exceptional Muay Thai, sensational wrestling, big BJJ advantage for Lanzar. And it's an interesting fight because it does look to be somewhat of a significant offensive black belt, but I don't know because Hellmuth has only lost via sub once, whether he'll be able to pull that off. One of the most astounding stats in the game for me is Phil Hellmuth Jr. 39-8, Brad 21-7-1, but Hellmuth Jr. 39 wins, 39 stoppages. So that's really interesting. If he does not knock you out, he's not going to win. I'd like to think that after beating Cajun Pundo, Hellmuth can beat just about anybody. This, however, is a tough fight because I don't think a lot of heavyweights or super heavyweights have submission skills. So this is an interesting matchup for me. Both guys in the top 100 pound for pound. Hellmuth, at the time of this recording, 5th in the weight class, 5th at heavyweight. Brad is 3rd at super heavyweight, 74th in the world. Hellmuth 5th at heavyweight, 18th in the world. If he wins this fight, he's a top 10 guy. If he wins, he's a top 10 guy, and he's probably, he might vault to number 1 or number 2 in the heavyweight rankings if he wins this thing. Brad and Phil, it's a tough one. Brad, three of his last 5, former Sin super heavyweight champion. He's coming off a win, and he's won 3 of his last 4, actually. Hellmuth, he is on, I believe, a 6-fight win streak, looking for 7 in a row. No, I take that back. It's an 8-fight win streak, dating back to the days of MMA Helsinki. He's 6-0 in our org, looking for a 7th in a row. But if you count his MMA Helsinki days, he's got 8 in a row, looking for 9. And I think he's going to get it. If I had to pick, I would take Hellmuth Jr. by KO. But this is one heck of a fight, and this is a fight that, depending on who wins it, can change the landscape of the 265 and the 265 plus divisions. If Lanzar goes back to Sin after beating Hellmuth Jr., he's got to be in line for some form of title fight. And if Hellmuth Jr. knocks out Lanzar, he's a top 10 fighter and probably demands the best heavyweights in the world. So this can change the landscape of the game in a sense. So I really, really like this fight, and of course it's going to be a big draw. I'm interested to hear your guys' opinions on it. I'll be posting this in the forum a little bit later, and I'll be interested to see what the split is on this, because I think this is a close fight, but I think it's an intriguing fight, and anything can happen when you get up into these weight classes. So I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Again, that was Pride FC 4 taking place this Saturday in Rio de Janeiro. And I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Thanks so much, and see you later.